Hi, my name's Tim Taylor. I'm the series producer and creator of Time Team. I'm here to talk about our new exciting project called Dig Village.
So Paul, we see on the show tiny bits of pot come out like this, and someone tells us a great big story about who was there when. How?
It's mainly three different factors. I mean, the best analogy I usually use with this is it's a bit like bird watching. Once you've seen something, you know what it is. The trouble is, they quite often have shared features in common. For instance, a robin is a brown bird with a red breast, but not all brown birds with red breasts are robins, yeah? The same applies for this. For instance, early Saxon pottery, like this piece, has quite a lot of quartz in it, but not all pottery with quartz in is late Saxon. It's basically a combination of the inclusions, which is the bits mixed in with the clay, the way it's made. There's basically three different ways of making up pots, and then the finish, the decoration, things like that, and you put them all together, and 9 times out of 10 it'll tell you what you're looking at.
Okay, so the inclusions change through time?
They change through time, and they change with geography as well. I mean, the geology in this country is very, very mixed. For instance, if you're in Northamptonshire, the clay contains a lot of shelly limestone. If you're in Leicestershire, the clay contains a lot of granite. So if you find a pot with granite in it somewhere on the Leicestershire-Northamptonshire border, it's probably from Leicestershire, although it might be from Cambridgeshire.
Okay. And now, in terms of the actual pot, what difference would the inclusions make to the strength of the pot?
They can do, yeah. I mean, sometimes the very fine inclusions, like there's this little piece of medieval jug, it's got a lot of very fine sand in it. That's just sand that naturally occurs in the clay. You look at this piece of early Saxon, it's got big chunks of crushed rock in it. Now that's been added deliberately by the potter. It makes the clay stiffer and easier to work, and it can improve the refractory qualities of the clay. When you put it on the fire, the pot won't crack necessarily. So it can be functional, or sometimes it's just stuff that naturally occurs in the clay.
Okay, and now you mentioned 3 different ways of making a pot?
Yes, there's basically hand building, which is, I mean, obviously you use your hands to make pots anyway, but you basically start with a lump of clay and you pinch a pot out of it like you do at school, or you get coils, sausages of clay, build them up, smooth it all down. Then there's 2 ways of wheel throwing. There's what we call a slow wheel, which isn't really a wheel. It's, imagine a turntable, the sort of thing you ice a cake on. You build it up with coils on this turntable, smoothing it as you go, you're turning it as you go, it makes it easier to do. Then when you finish, you can spin the turntable, and the weight of the pot acts as a flywheel, and then you can even the pot up, and then you get the proper potter's wheel where you can throw a nice big thin walled pot, yeah, and they leave different traces on the pot and the surface of the pot because of the potter's hands. For instance, this piece of German stoneware is very obviously wheel thrown. You can see the finger grooves on it where the potter's had his hands on the pot, or her actually, because we've got woodcut of German potters, and there's at least one woman making this stuff in their island.
They're fine fingers.
Yeah, yeah. So you can see that very clearly with the throwing grooves, as we call them. This one is wheel turned, so slow wheel. It's still fairly even. It's still got the horizontal marks, but if you look at the inside, it's not as crisp and sharp as this. It's not been rotated at anywhere near as high a speed. And then finally you get this bit of Saxon, which is hand built. You see the surface is quite uneven, there's no obvious throwing rings or anything like that, so you know that gives you the clue as to how it was manufactured.
And what sort of timeline are we looking for the different methods?
It varies. I mean, we started this in the Roman period. Most of the pottery was wheel thrown, but some of it was moulded and some of it was hand built or slow wheel made. It depends whereabouts you are in the country. It's very regional pottery. In different periods, such as the medieval period particularly, it's incredibly regional. The pottery in, say, Leicestershire is completely different to the pottery in Somerset, yeah? We go into the early Saxon period, it goes back to hand building, no other method used. We get to the middle Saxon period, it's hand building with a little bit of wheel turning. We get to the early medieval period, the late Saxon period, that's nearly all wheel thrown, but there's some hand building. Early medieval, we lose wheel throwing completely, just hand building and slow wheel. Late medieval, back to wheel throwing, and then by the end of the medieval period, we're getting fully industrialised production. By the 17th century, they're moulding them, making them in any industrial fashion you can think of, really. So it's not a constant progression, there's ups and downs. You know?
Okay. And so the third factor that helps us identify is the finish, the decoration?
Yeah, I mean, again, you don't get one particular decoration type only used in one period. In the Roman period, this piece is what we call colour coat. It's a white clay, but you can see it's got the grey surfaces. That's because they've got a liquid clay, a grey liquid clay, and dipped it to give it this nice sort of metallic grey finish. The Saxon period is quite rough, but you sometimes get the outer surface smoothed and even stamped. This piece of Middle Saxon, you see it's quite shiny. That's been burnished. They've got a pebble when the clay's been sort of leather hard, rubbed it. That bit of medieval, not really finished at all. That bit's got a nice pale green glaze on, but you get pale green glazed pottery in the late Saxon period, and even in the Roman period. There were a little bit of Roman glazed pottery. By the late medieval period, you're getting salt glazing, which is giving you this nice greyish colour, but it's also got an iron wash in it. But you're also getting, these two are actually contemporary. One's got a very dark brown manganese rich glaze, that's a salt glaze. Once you get into the post-medieval period, you're getting these lead glazes, but that's a lead glaze as well. So again, up and down fluctuations, you've got to put it all together, yeah?
So you basically just need to look at thousands of pieces of pot to get...
Well, I did a little count up on my computer of my databases a few years ago, and I've been doing this for nearly 30 years, and I've looked at approximately 1.75 million sherds of pottery in that time. The first million sherds are the worst. Once you've seen the first million, you're kind of starting to get a hang of it.
Really?
Then, yeah?
That's inspiring. I'm sure that's got everyone very keen at home. So our big 3 things to look for are inclusions, the method of manufacture, and the finish and decoration.
The 3.
Okay, now we know. Thanks for the advice, Paul. We can all go and classify the pottery on site.
Good luck.